What's up, losers? It's your boy, the OGGM, coming to you live, located in lovely Fresno, Nevada, which looks suspiciously like Ventura, California. And content warning, because apparently we have cycled back to this most upsetting of topics: death. Yes, there's been a lot of posts over the last 2 weeks, and as usual, the Doom Dungeon tubers have jumped on this grenade. Hello, bird. Oh, are you Jay? Yes, you are Jay. Talking about butterfly. Spring here in Fresno, if you can't tell. Talking about death and the warnings of what happens if you let death happen in your role-playing game. And we're seeing a lot of doom and gloom stories about people who wrote letters and threats, and one story even about somebody who apparently took their own life. Now, contact warning, because we are talking about death. So if that's a topic that upsets you, please stop watching this now. I am probably the last person to talk about this topic, because 80% of the time I find when my characters die hilarious. And a TPK, hilarious. Have I been upset characters died? Sure. Especially if somebody I was invested in a long period of time. But it usually was my fault, and it was usually hilarious. So I can understand that people are invested in their characters. I can understand. There are some stories. The ravens are very upset about something lately. Hi, baby. Yes, I can tell you're upset about something. I think it's the hawks try and rob their nests. So, because we have a family of hawks and a family of ravens sharing the same general neighborhood. Plus, we have all the butterflies passing through because it's migration season. So, yeah, you don't care. So, I can't deny 100% that these actually happened. Do I think somebody wrote a threatening note to the DM? Maybe. I'm sure there's some truth to that one, about all the people who received threats and who were attacked online and had vicious rumors spread about them because they dared to kill a character. Well, we definitely know there's some truth to that because we've seen those posts. We saw that happen. But I think it's safe to say that that was a very small, self-indulgent percentage of the population. And generally, most gamers, even the youngest ones, are adult enough and aware enough that should death of a player character happen, you shrug it off. It's like, oh no, Mario died, or my Diablo character died, or my Minecraft character died, and yeah, it sucks because I have to run back and get my stuff, whatever, but at the end of the day, it's really nothing important. Now, I don't mean to take light of it. I've recently had a death, well, multiple deaths in the last year or so affect me, both family members, friends, people that I were not, fans of. Adam the Woo's death affected a lot of us in the community, stuff like that. I've had beloved pets pass away, so death sucks. But it's inevitable. More so in a tabletop role-playing game. Because it is a deadly world that you have decided to send your player out into, as opposed to, I don't know, staying at home and becoming a baker like your dad and never once having to worry about being eaten by a dragon. Oh, sure, it's boring. But, yeah, you're a baker. So I'm probably the worst person to talk about this because I think death in the D&D game is hilarious. I can't tell you how many times I've been at a table where we were all hoping for a TPK, that we wanted to go out in a ridiculous blaze of glory, But sure, I can accept that there are people that are upset. And maybe some of these stories have a kernel of truth. But there's also, I think, some sensationalism behind this, some desperate need to look important. and to shout out the fallacies of our hobby by taking what might have been true and blowing it out of proportion, you know. And for some reason, we have cycled back to the story of the person who took their life. And I've seen this story repeated multiple times in the past 2 weeks about an individual whose character got killed, and they were so upset they went home and took their life. I will tell you categorically, that is not true. Now, I'm not saying people haven't taken their lives. I know several individuals who have done that. And maybe some of those people played D&D. And maybe somewhere in the history of those people playing D&D, the character that they were playing died. But the story about the person who killed themselves because the DM killed their character, that is 100% bullshit. What they are referencing in this story that they think is true is two things. They are referencing Joan Jeffy's Mazes and Monsters, the Tom Cruise film, loosely based upon an actual series of events, while neglecting to mention that several other factors were involved besides just the fact that he gamed, and that the individual should, whatever. And the other one is a comic that was running for a long time called The Tale of Blackleaf. This was a series of comments that were made during the satanic panic of the 80s by uninformed individuals to show you the dangers of D&D and like how these girls were casting spells on their parents because of D&D and, you know, invoking demons. And one of them had a character named Blackleaf in the story, and the DM killed Blackleaf, and the character in the comic got so upset that she went off and killed herself. Okay. Because they wanted you to believe how awful D&D was back then, much like some of the people want you to believe today. And that if you played D&D, you were summoning devils and people were killing themselves. And again, that whole person took their life because of game can all be traced back to the events that did happen, unfortunately, that Joan Jeffy, or whatever her name is, sensationalized and extravagances on into the award-winning Mazes and Monsters. But the actual truth is there were a whole bunch of other reasons why that situation happened, and Dungeons and Dragons or role-playing was only one part of them. But it's easy to point the finger and say, if you kill my character, I'll do something horrible. Or if you kill my character, I'll do something horrible to you. There's a reason we're going this way, and you'll see why. And no, it's not to see the skeleton. Now, that would have been obvious if I walked to the skeleton. We're talking about death, let's go see the skeleton. But actually, I think there's some people who still have their Halloween decorations up. That says much way more than me, right? So, again, much like the argument D&D is therapy. No, D&D is not therapy. D&D is therapeutic. It can be a tool in your therapy utility belt, but it is not of itself therapy. Basketball is therapeutic. Gardening is therapeutic. Taking these walks and talking to you every day is therapeutic. Oh, I was right. There it is. Hi, how are you?
Morning.
Well, afternoon, but yes, thank you.
Is it afternoon now?
I don't know. Time's an illusion. My shoes untied. I was right. Okay, so yeah. So being upset or something happening to that individual is one part of a series of things. You are so cool too. You are the best. Hi, hi, hi. It's nice to know that the bots love me more than real people, right? These events that the Dungeon Tubers are talking about are one part of a larger story. But you don't want to tell the whole story because the whole story isn't interesting. The whole story is sad. All right, I can't tell if this is Halloween or politics or whatever. It is kind of disturbing, but okay. I don't know what's going on here. I thought it was Halloween, but now that I'm close, I'm like, I'm not sure what your message is now. Maybe it's a politics thing. I don't know. Limes in the wild. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So we know that these guys are telling these stories. We know that if you're playing in a dangerous universe, like dice rolling, bad things could happen. A character could die. And we know people have gotten upset. And we know there was all these rumors going around about all these people who were saying all these horrible things about old school D&D and about players dying and characters dying and, you know, you killed my character, so I'm going to destroy you online. You killed my character, so I'm going to tell everybody you're toxic, blah, 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 blah. If you kill, you know, using the death as a threat. DM, if you fuck with my player agency, I'm going to go after you and I'm going to destroy you. And that did happen. I mean, that's true. But it's my shoes untied. That the people who did that were probably going to do it anyways. No matter what you did in your game, they were going to go after you because of that was how their programming. You know, you didn't give them what they wanted 100%. You fucked with their agency, so they're going to go after you. But yeah, you know, that's just one aspect of the entire story, and chances are they were going to go after you anyways, no matter what. You could not win. And they were going to do what they did. You know, I mean, there's still people who are still preaching hate and telling you how bad the rest of the gaming community is. Our favorite Canadian jackass, for one. So we know that doesn't go away. We know that there's people who take malicious pleasure out of sowing the seeds of ruin and going after other people in the hobby or in whatever walk of life they may be a part of, simply because they are so miserable that they need to ruin everybody else's sense of fun. This would happen in any aspect of life, any fandom, anything. So while I will not question that there is some validity to these stories, my own personal experiences with them, I also will not question the fact that these people who are repeating these stories are doing so to sensationalize them, and they are choosing to edit out aspects of the story to draw more attention. Don't kill characters in D&D or else. I wrote a letter telling the DM not to kill my character. Blah, 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 blah. Unfortunately, this fallacy falls apart because Dungeons and Dragons functions on a very simple premise. All tabletop role-playing game functions on a very simple premise, and it's the same premise that every comic book ever functions on. It's a very simple premise. Nobody stays dead. Oh, what's wrong, buddy? Yes, we're going to the skeleton. Nobody stays dead in comic books. Nobody stays dead in tabletop role-playing games. First off, it is unbelievably hard to keep a character down in D&D. Today's D&D, it's impossible. It's impossible to keep a character down in D&D. Old school D&D, it was still pretty hard to kill characters. You know, I've had characters way in the negatives who have come back because magic, psionics, superpowers, the rules of comic book physics that apply to all aspects of the hobby. Your character is not dead unless you want them to be dead. If you do not want the character to be dead, there will be a way to bring that character back. Doesn't matter what setting you're in, that character is not 100% completely dead unless you, the player, want them dead. All right? Because I know, personally, I dragged around the idea of a dead character for like 6 years before I found a way to bring them back to life. And I wasn't the only person. And this was before 5th edition. But I knew I was playing in a fantasy role-playing game. I knew I was playing in a comic book. I knew I was playing in a universe that functions by the rules that there are superpowers. There's magic, psionics, superpowers, space technology, whatever. It doesn't matter what genre you're playing. It's a game. And built into the game is the very real, yeah, okay, you're going to die, but you're not going to stay dead, okay? This is a comic book. Nobody except for the original Captain Marvel, not Billy Batson, but the Marvel Universe Captain Marvel, stays dead. They even found a way to bring back Uncle Ben. Okay? So, yeah, you're not dead. Dying sucks. Losing your character sucks. Facing the realities of the real world and what's everything's going on is scary. We want to make death important. Death is scary. Death is easy to sell. It's very hard to sell life. It's very hard to sell the idea that everything begins again. Sure, something has ended. This story has ended, and that's sad. But everything begins again, and that's happy. Be happy. Don't mourn their death. Celebrate their life. Learn the lesson of the series of events so that we can be better. So we can be better than what happened, where it's going on in the real world. If I die, I don't want people, saying, blah, blah, blah. I want them celebrating what I did in my life, not focusing on the fact that I'm now feeding the worms. Huh. Is this not the street the skeleton's on? Did we miss the skeleton? You'd think by now I know where the skeleton is. So, streaming from a toaster oven. Close enough. I'm streaming from a cell phone. But hey, at least I'm doing this every day. I'm staying to my New Year's resolution, trying to walk at least 20 minutes every day. And I'm dragging you guys with me, because if I've got to be outside, you can come outside and look at the lovely Fresno, Nevada skyline, which looks suspiciously like Southern California beach community. Weird. But we know I'm an AI and I don't live in California, so Fresno, Nevada, you're home away from home. So you're going to see, and I'm sure Bob Willbuilder is going to do one now if he hasn't done everything yet, talking about death, talking about player agency, talking about alternate rules to death, talking about there is ways to roll the game without having a character die, which will probably steamroll into another argument about Rule Zero and player agency and stuff like that, and dice fudging. Well, we don't want anybody to die, so I'm going to fudge the dice. And if you let my character die, I'm going to go after you. We lived in fear. The players would do to us because of the power of the internet and how they could, with a few choice words, destroy someone. That's fact. That happened. We know that happened. We saw that happen in real time. And we saw DMs suddenly have to think about player agency. Think about, will there be consequences if the game plays out the way it should? Which led to the whole advent of the cozy, safe game. If we're role-playing knitting, chances are no one's going to die. I mean, how many ones would I have to roll to prick my thumb on the knitting needle, have that get infected, and then die from step because I didn't deal with the infection, And that's assuming that the DM would even consider that in the comfy role-playing game about knitting, where they'd be like, this, you could get step. It's not dealt with. Yeah, we totally miss this. I don't know how I do this. I know where the skeleton is, and yet I consistently miss its street because I'm dumb. So I want to tell you guys that it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to process and do whatever you need to do to process. And it's okay to say the death of my character upset me. And I need to do something because while it is unreasonable, it's a piece of paper with numbers on it in a game that doesn't have any actual effect on the real world whatsoever. For whatever reasons, I'm upset. And that's okay. I'm upset about the loss of my character, even though it's hysterical. I need to understand that it's not real. Okay, it was a piece of paper with numbers on it. My piece of paper with numbers on it died. What does that mean? Even it's not real. But I'm upset. I need to choose to be the adult, and trust me, this goes for 9-year-olds and 99-year-olds, and realize, hey, I had fun. Some stuff happened. My piece of paper is dead. I can make a new piece of paper with numbers on it. I can take a break. I can do lots of other things. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't matter because it's just a game. And that game is only one part of the story that is your life. And there's so many other things going on, both good and bad, that you should make a part of the wonderfulness that is you. Focusing on the death of a character in a D&D game to the point where you're saying or doing things or threatening other people probably means you have a larger problem than gaming. And maybe you should talk to somebody about this problem who is more intelligent and more qualified to talk about the situation than me. Because I'm not a therapist. I'm in therapy, but I'm not a therapist. I'm not an attorney. I'm an idiot with an opinion. And my opinion is nobody stays dead in comic books. Nobody stays dead in a role-playing game. It's a game. You are playing a piece of paper with numbers on it, performing ridiculously heroic, awesome deeds to move this silly story of silliness forward. It's silly. It's silly, okay? Star Wars is silly. King Arthur is silly. Indiana Jones is silly. Top Gun is silly. That's the part of D&D you should embrace. And it is a fun, silly way to let out our childhood and let out our emotions and be the most over-the-top, wonderful, awful version of ourselves that we can be for a couple hours every month. And then, just like every other thing in our utility belt that makes us us, we move on. D&D is just one thing in the utility belt of things that I use to make it through the day. Just one of the many things that are my therapy, are my reasons to, get up and move along. And, it's very poignant because somebody I did respect a lot, Adam the Woo, passed away. One of the reasons I started this channel was because of Adam the Woo. We finally found his cause of death the day before yesterday. It was, as many people predicted, a heart attack. And that's not my place to tell about it. But, there's people who are upset. There are people who are sad. There are people who are devastated. But nobody's threatening Adam the Woo's parents. Or saying, well, I'm going to destroy you, Justin, because you weren't there for Adam. No, everybody's saying, let's celebrate his life. Let's celebrate everything he stood for and the adventures he took it on and the person he was. So, I understand, guys, if something happened that you're upset about and you want to talk about it. And there are people out there who are qualified to listen to you talk about it. It doesn't have to be a therapist. It could be a parent, a friend, a teacher, a priest, a rabbi, a doctor, your mom, your dad, your dog, an e-girl, a VTuber, me. What does upset me is the whole point of this argument is that once again, people are taking this nonsense and turning it into ammunition to make you hate some aspect of the hobby. And even people I used to respect are now jumping on the same doom and gloom bandwagon, which I suppose is kind of hypocritical considering how doom and gloom I've been. But even at my worst, I've always tried to make fun. I've always tried to point a finger and say, I can do better. I'm always trying to do better. And you can do better. And you should do better. If your biggest concern of 2026 is your last video didn't get 64K views, you need to be doing better. And trying to facilitate the smallest common denominator under the fallacy, I'm using big words, that negativity sells more. More people will respond to your video talking about the how dare you of death or the alternatives to death in D&D. Do you think I'm going to get 64,000 people to say, you know what, the OGGM is right. It's just a fucking game. Move along. No. No. But the guys who are posting the videos about, oh, so-and-so sent a letter, oh, they are. Because that's what sells, unfortunately. And I don't want to sell hate and fear and anger and tragedy. And sure, I've said some hateful, angry things about people in the past. I regret them. I'll never get tired of saying hateful, angry things about Wizards of the Coast until they prove themselves better. So, again, if your biggest complaint about 2026 is your last video didn't get 64K views, and you might have to go back to your real job, well, do better. Be a better person. Spread positivity. You want to talk about death in a role-playing game? Talk about how silly it is. Talk about how the fact nobody stays dead in a comic book. And there are millions of ways to keep that character alive and bring that character back. And if you really think D&D is so fucking dangerous, don't play it. Don't play it. You want to play a game about knitting or running a coffee shop or being cute little anthropomorphic mice exploring a forest? That game exists. Play that. Anyways, I've dragged you guys along for 26 minutes. Hopefully you've enjoyed these walks as much as I enjoy going on them and enjoying this lovely spring day that is, of course, not real because I am an AI and this is all in the Matrix and I don't live in California. But yeah, if you do, and if you think I'm just, bullshitting and vomiting up stupidity, let me know. Thank you again, and just remember, stay positive. Everything ends, and that's sad, but everything lives again, and that's happy. So just be happy. Celebrate life. Don't celebrate death. Learn from death. Learn from our mistakes, and then move forward.